Hello and welcome to the Sunday Brunch Show. Welcome to Positive Fandom, everybody. I'm your host, Mmmm, and of course, we have Russ Whitfield with us today. How are you, Russ?
I'm good, thank you, and how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is September. It's like maybe one of the last weekends in September. The fall weather is here in New York. And I really wish it was still 80 degrees, but it is not. We're not getting anywhere 80 degree days, I'm guessing. What about you, Russ? What is the weather like in the
It's
UK?
actually very warm today. It's sort of flip-flopping between quite cold and then quite warm. But today is very warm. That's lucky. How was your weekend? Was it a good one?
It was a good one. It went by incredibly fast. I saw family, I saw
Mhm.
friends. It's starting to feel like a regular weekend that I would have where I go out. I see people, I go out to eat somewhere, take my mom out with me for a few of those events. Things are starting to feel almost as if it was before everything went crazy. So I feel great. I love that it's getting back to that, and you can kind of do things like you normally would do before. It feels really good to be able to do that. So that was my weekend. I hope everybody in the chat is having a great weekend. We've got a lot of you already here. Tom Jr. Jackson says good morning to all. Well, good morning, Tom. We are all good people.
Hey,
Good to
Tom.
see you. And Kenneth Crawley Jr. Hi, Kenneth. Um, he says, "Hey, RM. How's it going? Been rewatching a lot of panels from different conventions with Star Wars and DC film and TV actors today, plus Marvel MCU as well. Yes, it's great to go back and watch those panels. I recently rewatched the House of the Dragon panels at San Diego Comic Con this summer, just enjoying all that good stuff. Hearing those actors and hearing the authors and everything. Martin was at that panel, and I really enjoyed that. So it is great to see that. Um, and we also have, who else do we have here
I
this
think
morning?
Kenneth's a bit of a DC fan by the look of things. I saw some chat up above talking about the CW verse, Legends of Tomorrow, Katie Lotz, Supergirl, and all that stuff. I used to love the CW stuff, but I've always found with those shows, with the exception of Flash and Arrow, which had a really good run, um, Supergirl was like good for like 2 seasons and then just started getting progressively worse. And I think myself and my daughter, we used to love Legends, especially Sam loved it because Constantine, she loved that show and it was tragically cut short. But she followed it because of him, and we were in kind of in like a minority. We really loved the first season with Vandal Savage in it. But it just got more and more ridiculous as it went on, and we would talk about it. Why has it gotten so mad and stupid and crazy and what have you? But when I looked at reviews on the internet, apparently everybody loved Legends, but that's now gone as well. Supergirl's gone. The last man standing is Superman, Superman and Lois, which is a great show. It is a great show. What does it say?
He's
Also,
looking at Welling and Smallville reunion panels, which are fun to see as well.
mm,
And he also goes on to say that the Superman and Lois cast does a panel. I always watch it. I love those panels, Kenneth. They are wonderful. Incidentally, I'm going to New York Comic Con, and the lead actor who plays Superman will be there at New York City Comic Con.
Tana Hecklin.
Yes,
Yeah.
this year. So I am definitely looking forward if I do end up getting a signature, or even if I don't get a signature, sometimes I'll walk near where the signatures are and
Mm.
you can kind of see the stars over there and you're like, oh, look at who it is. It is kind of nice to do that. I
Well,
just,
he's insanely good looking, isn't he? I mean,
uh,
and they all are, but
well,
he's a lovely looking man.
yes, and the Sebastian Stan interview and autograph thing sold out in about an hour. So that
Hmm.
one was sold out rather quickly. Not a surprise there, but there's still Outlander tickets available for some Outlander packages if you are an Outlander fan like I am.
Uh,
Um,
I
it,
never would have thunk it.
it's going to be a Saturday night with Outlander panel and the author, as well as a morning tea with them, which means I might have to change the time I do this show. Yes, guys, I'm yes, these panels, thank God for these panels. I also want to say good morning to Retro Nerd
Oh,
Girl.
there she is. Hello, Retro Nerd Girl.
It's so good to see you. Retro Nerd Girl does have a new video out this week, and I think it might be this today or yesterday. Guys, please do check out Retro Nerd Girl's YouTube channel. You won't be disappointed, everybody.
It's really
Um,
good.
and so it's not Salway, it's Salwate. Is that how
It,
you say it?
it can be either. Uh,
Well, Darth Plato, salute to you,
Salway.
everybody. Good to see you, Darth Plato, as always. Guys, if you are enjoying the show, please consider sending me a tip via Stream Elements. And I did want to mention that last week I thanked a lot of people who had sent me a ton of stuff via Stream Elements, and I couldn't see it in the system because it was going to my Twitch channel first. And it hadn't occurred to me to check it in that regard. I know it's complicated, but I did want to let you all know that I'm grateful for all the support that you, excuse me, have shown me. Thank you for that. And Retro Nerd Girls channel, she has a video on Planet of the Vampires. Guys, check it out. The
Oh,
link is there.
great.
It's always a fantastic analysis with Retro Nerd Girl. Thalia Meyer is here.
There she is. Hello.
Hello and good morning to you all. She says, so nice to see you, Thalia. I hope you're having a great morning or day. And Mikey Lido says, good morning, everyone.
Hey, Mikey. How are you, mate? I hope you're good.
Yes, it's always great to see you, Mikey Lido.
Mikey's in New York, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's here in New York, not too far from me.
Hmm.
And you know, Mike Alito and I have met up upon occasion to go to the movies and stream together. So Mike Alito has his own YouTube channel. It's called Mike Alito Live. So definitely check out
It's really
Mikey's
good.
channel, guys.
Next time I'm in New York, we'll have to go out for drinks.
Absolutely. And of course, Stream Elements is letting you guys know that Sunday Brunch is live, guys. It is here, finally. It's so great to see you all this morning. We also have Andrew, 46 and 2. So
Hello.
good morning, all. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning. Norwegian Kryptonian is here.
My man. Hello. How are you, mate?
And of course, the amazing Renz Tolentino. Good morning to you. This incredible, talented artist, guys. Check out Renz
Amazing.
Tolentino's work. This hyper realistic pieces of artwork that he does really will blow your mind away. Check out his Instagram. Check out his Facebook. Check out everything that Renz Tolentino has. I promise you, you won't be disappointed in what he can do. Darkwing Duck is here.
Hey, Darkwing. And yes, I don't know if we'll cross the streams, Mikey, just in answer to that question that I just saw pop up. But hello, Darkwing Duck. But we'll definitely sink a few drinks. I'd like to meet you.
Absolutely. I can tell you that Mike Alito is such a gentleman. He certainly is an amazing person, wonderful to talk to. He's you won't be bored with Mike Alito. He always has something interesting to talk about. Kenneth goes on to talk about the first 3.5 seasons of Supergirl. Was great, but the writing was sadly in the last 2 seasons, 5 and 6, not as great as he hoped for.
It really did get very, God, dare I say, it got really woke at the end. And we'll go on to talk about this in detail later on. But
Yes.
the trouble with Supergirl and, you know, Legends in its own way is that their messaging was just, it was just too in your face. Do you know what I mean? It was just so. I mean, there was one episode, Wonder Woman. Linda Carter was playing the president of the United States, who turned out to be some sort of alien, as far as I remember. And I remember them talking about, you know, the election and things like that. And literally, Supergirl says, you know, well, God help us if it's a Republican. And it was kind of stuff like that, you know, literally like, guys, don't say that. Just don't, because you know you're gonna upset people. People take it seriously. But yeah, it was really good, and she was a brilliant Supergirl. Actually, Ken, there are reports that she may well make an appearance now in Superman and Lois.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, that there's talk of that. Well, they have met, but of course, after the crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, which, by the way, for its budget and everything like that, I really enjoyed it. Brandon Routh came back as Kingdom Come Superman. It was so nice to see him back in that costume. He was a great Christopher Reeve Superman. I mean, Brandon Routh is a very, very good actor in and of his own right, but his Christopher Reeves impersonation or portrayal, whatever you want, he was it was perfect. I loved that. I really, really liked that film. Robert Meyer Burnett was in it as well as a journalist, wasn't he, on the at the airport?
He was at the airport. He's a journalist in it. And as I said last week, that if I ever get control of to bring Cavill back, Robert will be there.
Hmm.
Since he's the only person I know who has experience, even it's being associated with a Superman film like that. So it's kind of exciting to even talk about. But yes, you're right.
Have
It,
you
you
seen
know,
that? Sorry, or have you seen that picture that's come out of Henry Cavill as Superman from
no,
Black
I
Adam?
haven't seen it. Can you send it to me?
It's on it. If you just go to, of course, I'll send it to you. It's a really blurry picture that's been leaked. Apparently, someone took it during one of the Black Adam screeners, and it's definitely Cavill. And he's definitely in the suit, but it could be completely fake. But all of the rumors are now that he does make an appearance in Black Adam. We don't know how long it is, if it's end credits, does he fight him, does he do this, does he, we literally don't know, but it's all but confirmed. But you know what, you got to take this with a pinch of salt, because it was all but confirmed that he was appearing at Comic-Con. I mean, it was in Deadline,
Well,
that he was going to
he
appear.
didn't say that he was going to appear there, so I
He
have to
did.
give us
He
credit.
didn't.
We don't do that here.
Yeah. But I mean, you'd think that Deadline is like a really credible source, right? But nope, that didn't happen. So until I've seen it, I'm gonna hold fire on it. But I'm looking forward to the movie anyway. I'll go and see it regardless. But I really hope he's in it.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it. It would be great. It seems to make sense that it would be him, especially at the end of Peacemaker. It seems to make sense that it was him who did
Mm.
that part, and they just want to leave it up for speculation. But we will find out soon enough. Bye for Dan Hobbit says, "Love you." Well, we love you
We love you
too.
too, Bifa.
And Nathan Trujillo is
Oh,
here,
hey.
saying, "What's up, everybody? What's up? So good to see you, Nathan." Certainly, I just want to make sure I get everybody. Joker Voice is here. Hello,
Hello,
Joker
mate.
Voice. Good to see you here. He says, hello to everybody. We also have Rogue Thinker.
Hey, Rogue.
Greetings, brunchers, Russ, Tom in the chat, and good morning to everybody. So definitely, it's great to see all of you this morning. And I did want to say that, of course, this show is primarily going to be, or at least a good portion of it is going to be about Andor. Russ, have you seen Andor?
I have, but first, how good is Game of Thrones?
It's
Still rolling on the unstoppable powerhouse of awesome that is House of the Dragon. I am beyond impressed with this show. I am beyond impressed with it. Um, the last episode, I think it was episode 5. Um, with the reveal, when the knight goes to the queen and confesses that he's had relations with Renara, and the whole wedding and the fight, and it's just getting better and better. And the one thing I loved about that show, and Game of Thrones has always been good at doing this. It sort of smacks of the first season of Game of Thrones. Otto Hightower, the king's hand, who's scheming and trying to get his grandson to replace Renara as the heir. When he leaves the castle because he's been given the sack, there's a scene with him and his daughter, and all of his scheming, and he has used her, when to get more power. But you could see in that scene, Rhys Evans, Ifan's performance. He really loves his daughter. You could see, and he says to her, you have to get, if you don't kill her, she's going to kill you and your son, and that's just the way that it's done, or you'll just have to throw yourself on her mercy. And I love that scene. It was such a fantastic scene. Really, really enjoyed it. But the whole thing, it's just getting better and better. And we're in an age now, aren't we, where we're kind of waiting for things to be rubbish. And I just feel, look, I don't know what's coming next, but I'm not going to say turn the corner, although that's probably the best expression to use in terms of like quality entertainment. Like we've been bitching and moaning for such a long time, yet now here we've got House of the Dragon. We had Cobra Kai. Everyone's saying it's the best season of Cobra Kai ever. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And now, of course, we've got Andor. But I just wanted to ask if you'd seen the latest episode and what your thoughts were, and also to say hello to Mario Lopez and hello to Keely Chow. They've just popped up in the chat.
Hello, Keely Chow, and of course, hello, Mario Lopez. Certainly great to see you, Mario, all the way from Portugal. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Yes, I did see House of the Dragon, and I love that show. And, you know, of course, my favorite part is where the princess asks Cole, she has the audacity to ask him to kind of just stick around while she's married to Leonore, who will be a great husband. And you know, I think that my best part is when Cole says, "So you want me to be your whore?" I played that thing like 20 times, Russ.
Yeah. Now
Someone
here,
talked it on Facebook or wherever it was, and I just kept replaying it and replaying it. And my mother's like, "Why do you keep playing that?" I said, "Because it's so good." You know, like it's just.
do you think do you think he is almost an anti Game of Thrones character in that he does seem he's a bit like Ned Stark. He seems to be honest, loyal, and true, and doesn't really have an agenda, and has fallen in love with the wrong person. And I'm thinking this because
Uh-huh.
after he killed oh god, what's the
Leonore's
prince,
lover.
Leonor's lover? Thank you. After he killed Leonor's lover, he then goes to kill himself, and the queen stops him. And I thought, why is this scene here? Yeah, obviously the character the character has to survive, but why would they have him about to kill himself and then the queen stop him? And I'm sure she's going to try and manipulate him. Mikey, that was me on Friday night. I went to a 40th birthday party, and I'm 51. Oh my god, I should not be out drinking until 3 in the morning. Then people came back to my house, and there was a party here that started when we got back at like 3. Oh, I don't think I've recovered from it. I might still be drunk. But yeah, I thought, why is that scene in there? And it I thought, for me, it was to illustrate he's dishonored himself. He's completely dishonored himself. He, you know, his cloak is what he values most, his white cloak. He's broken the rules and he can't live with himself. Oh,
Well,
hey, Joe Tyson.
yes,
Hello.
hi. Hi, Joe Tyson. Welcome. Joe Tyson says, "Good day, and Russ. So good to have you here." I think that Kristen Cole, you know, had a moment of passion. He indulged with the princess because he felt very passionate at that moment. But everything else that he's ever done has been stuff of consideration. You know, he's not a spontaneous kind of guy. He went and made it this oath to become a knight and guard the princess. But it didn't necessarily include satisfying the princess when she has sexual desires. You know, like that wasn't part of the promise. He took an oath of chastity, and he knows that. And it's so symbolic seeing him take his white cloak off and putting it down on the chair, knowing that he is breaking that oath of chastity there. But honestly, I don't think, you know, that was his mistake. You know, it wouldn't have been much of a story if he didn't sleep with the princess. But I think that he's foolish to think she can run away. I think we all know that if she ran away with him, they would hunt her down. Damon would have so much pleasure finding her and dragging her back by her blonde locks to throw her in some kind of dungeon or something somewhere. And, you know, it would just be a disaster. So she can't just run away whenever she wants to. It's not that kind of a family, guys. She can't just sign a paper and say, "I don't want this anymore." In fact, she pushed for this. She pushed for this. So I think that Cole is a dreamer. he's a dreamer, and I think that he loves her. And I don't think she's in love with him. I think she enjoys those warm, steamy nights with her champion protector, but I don't think that she's actually in love with Cole. And
No, I think you're quite right. But as Joker Voice points out, that Laenor's lover's name is ironically Joffrey. Um, Joffrey kind of spells it out for us when he says, "Look at him; he's absolutely c-word struck." But you can see him gazing, cunt struck. Yes, he's completely cunt struck, and that was such a telling line, because it's not only obvious that to us, the viewers who are seeing private moments between them, that he's completely fallen for her, but now dangerously it's obvious to everybody else. And I don't think poor old Joffrey expected that reaction to his, because I think he thought he was being he was being a smart boy, because up until that moment, Laenor didn't know about this, and she had something over on Laenor. The fact, you had that whole conversation saying, "Look, we've got to do it." Renora says to Laenor, "Look, we've got to do our duty and produce heirs." I'm paraphrasing, but then we can eat what we want, on the side. She's basically saying, "I know that you are gay, and that's cool with me. Just let's have sex, let's make some heirs, and go about our business." But when Joffrey spots Crispin Cole, he then sees that he's in love with her and works out they're having an affair, and he goes to tell him, "Oh yeah, well look, you are now no longer holding all the cards," and his mouth got him into a bit of trouble and got him beaten to death. So be careful. But now there's a time jump, I understand.
There is a time jump. I think, and I was kind of thinking about what Darth Plato was saying about the comments. Christian Cole's audacity is that way because he's been so familiar with her that he feels he can speak that way. He's supposed to be doing her. He's supposed to be doing her bidding and not the other way around. He's not her equal. He's not her equal, and that's okay. Like, if it were me, I would have ran away with him. And then, of course, Damon would have come and gotten me and said, "You can't do this sort of stuff. We have to kill Chris and Cole." That's what would have happened. But it would have been worth even, the 4 or 5 days that you could try and elude this family. These guys are deadly determined to make things go a certain way for the sake of keeping their power. So she wouldn't have stood a chance if she ran. And I think it's very interesting to think about that.
There's the thing. So he's, as you say, he's a dreamer. He's naive. He's fallen in love with her and thinks that she, would run away with him. And we're all hoping that she would, right? But they have set. See, this is good writing because they've set this up. She is hella ambitious, right? She was not talking to her father when she thought she was going to get displaced. She had a fight with her auntie, who should, the queen that never was. And she says, "Well, you're not me. I am going to be the queen." So there is a thirst for power there. She is a dragon rider. I mean, she goes and she breaks up that conflict with Daemon and Hightower over the dragon egg. And she was never going to run away with him, even if she did love him, which I think you're right, Aram. I don't think that she does. I think he is her plaything, and his heart is broken and all that stuff. But she's going to be the Dragon Queen. Well, we'll see in the next episode.
Yes. And this is also, I think the realistic part of this is why I think that what she asked him to do also was not very nice. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't do whatever he wants to do and she can't do whatever she wants to do, but it wasn't really very nice. And I think that if he had asked her before she went away with Laenor, she would have had the same answer. She would have said, "Well, there's a possibility that you and I could still be together anyway." It wouldn't have mattered if it was before or after. It's not a very nice thing to hear that from somebody you love. Tom Jr. Jackson has his YouTube channel. Guys, check out Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. His latest review of Moonage Daydream, which is biopic, or I think it's a biopic on David Bowie. Certainly something to check out, and also check out Joker Voice's channel, as well as Retro Nerd Girls and Renz Tolentino, who we saw earlier. Everybody, please do support our fellow creators, and also check out Russ Whitfield's website to find his work. Guys, you certainly do want to check out the Gladiatrix series. It certainly is a fantastic read. You absolutely want to see that.
Well, that's kind of you to say. And once again, thank you to Darth Plato for picking up a copy. I'm very grateful to you.
Yes, and Nathan Trujillo says that it is so good. House of the Dragon is so good.
Mm.
The bar for all other shows need to rise to.
Yeah, right. He's right to. Yeah, it's a real sleeper, isn't it? Like there was no fanfare for this show. All the talk was about Lord of the Rings, and I think it dropped the same week or just the week before. And it's a sleeper. It's a stealth, and it's brilliant. It's so good. I understand as talking of good and not so good. I understand She-Hulk is now finished. Is that right, or is it still going on?
I think there's still more, but for all practical purposes, it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not even going to talk about it, Russ.
Mm-hmm.
So what I am going to say is hello to Gary Bando Sandwich.
Hello, mate.
Hope you are well, Gary. I did want to say, and I really like that Joker Voice brought this thing up about giving up the throne for a host of oranges and cinnamon.
Mm.
And essentially, she's saying that she doesn't love him. You know, it's a nice way of saying, I don't really love this guy. I have to tell you that I would have given up a lot for a man that I love. So this is really telling you right there, she doesn't love him. It's cruel. He clearly has love for her, but she does not.
But it was set up, or that was the point. We knew that she wanted power. We know that. So this is entirely. He's talking about the sex scenes. I know. I threw the kitchen sink at the first one, man. The second one's better, I promise. The first one's pretty bad, but it was set up that she's ambitious and wants power, so she was never going to do that, and it was entirely in keeping with her character, and I thought that was great.
So it's Gladiatrix.
Gladiatrix. That's how I say it. I could be completely wrong, but yeah.
Nathan Trujillo says, please hit that like button. Guys, please hit that like button. Help me with the channel. Definitely watch some of my videos. I certainly do need help with my watch hours, and I so appreciate you guys being here. Mike Alito says it's time for coffee, and Joker Voice does say there are 3 more episodes, but as far as I am concerned, Joker Voice and Russ and everybody in the chat, it is not something that we're going to talk about today, because we've been giving it way too much of our time, Russ. We can talk about the comic. If you guys want to talk about the comic and you have comments about the comic or your favorite run or something else that you remember She-Hulk that has a good memory, please do so. But I don't know whether we're going to talk more about the series unless you absolutely.
I'm not because I'm not watching it. I had a word with myself about this and Lord of the Rings. I felt that we had to cover Lord of the Rings because it was such a good thing. A big thing. But having seen the first 2 episodes and having nothing good to say about it, I just didn't want to put myself through watching it and then just bore on about how much I can't bear it on a show called Positive Fandom. So that and She-Hulk, I've stopped watching, and like I said earlier on, it feels like things have turned a little bit of a corner. There's really good quality stuff out there for us to enjoy at the moment.
There is a lot of good quality stuff out there for us to enjoy. And I am going to say that, unfortunately, I can't recommend the show so far. That's where I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to get any more, say anything else detrimental. Congratulations to them for just even being able to make the show. But unfortunately, it's not one of my favorites. Retro Nerd Girl says House of the Dragon and Andor are definitely my favorites. Mine too, Retro Nerd Girl. Darth Plato says very clearly, House of the Dragon versus Rings of Power, which I keep calling Rings of Fire. First round knockout. Ding! You know something, guys? I don't really think, for me, and Russ and you and I have talked about this, because I'm not saying R.R. Martin isn't a genius. That man's incredible. And
Mm.
he looks so friendly, you know, like he's such a well-mannered kind of man. And I'm like, God bless you for writing these steamy things for me, R. Martin. I love you for this. But my real question is that it wasn't fair to compare the Lord of the Rings to House of the Dragon in the first place, in my opinion, because the Lord of the Rings I do consider, for me, classical literature. That's how I look at it. That's how I think all the works of Tolkien are for me. I think it's, you know, definitely one of the best things ever written, one of the best concepts ever made, something we've all enjoyed. So I don't know whether they're comparable, but it got more play because of its legacy already, right? It has such a long legacy. It's maybe one of the most famous stories of all time in the science fiction category, science fiction fantasy. So I think that in addition to being associated with Amazon, which, as I mentioned before, has that incredible marketing campaign, just constantly for the rest of our lives, we're going to be seeing this Rings of Power being advertised. It's not ever going
We
to go away.
are. I think we touched on this last week, didn't we? Briefly. Um, you know, it doesn't matter how much money they throw at it and how many people, you know, and how many times they advertise it. It's not very good. In fact, it's crap, I think. And even if you're not a Tolkien fan, you don't even know who Tolkien is, and you just want to watch a fantasy show, because it's so bad, people are going to switch off. So they're going to need to course correct in season 2. I think they're really going to have to scramble to try and regain an audience, um, because, well, we've seen this in recent times as well, haven't we, with Rotten Tomatoes, and, you know, sort of getting review bombed by professional reviewers. You know, like all of these shows getting 99% ratings from professional critics, yet the fans can't, you know, or the viewers. I'm not going to say fans at this point. You know, viewers are just thinking, "Oh, this is rubbish." And with the power of the internet, with all these YouTubers now, and people able to go and put their honest opinions online, these companies have, you know, two choices: wear it or delete them. And Amazon has taken now to sort of deleting comments off of IMDb and its own website. They've been bust doing that, and it doesn't matter in the long term, because only nerds will know that they've been bust doing it. But it's pretty despicable that they're censoring their reviews and raising the average. But what is
Well,
Tom saying here? Oh, sorry.
it's a good point that you're making, and I think a lot of people have shared that sentiment. It's a valid point. Not at all what we would think of, you know, people who are writing with integrity and ethics. So that is something to think about, Russ. And Tom Jr. Jackson is mentioning Moonage Daydream. I don't know why I couldn't say this before. Is a concert film, documentary type film. It's hard to specifically say. I think you just said
Oh,
what it was, Tom Jr.
well,
Jackson.
is this an old documentary?
I don't know. I think it's in the movie theaters right now, Russ.
Oh, because I remember years and years ago, I saw a sort of fly on the wall documentary with David Bowie, and the one thing I remember about it, and because it was so funny, it's just stuck in my mind. He was coked out of his mind, and the police, you know, like their car got flashed by the police, and he's going, "Oh, bloody hell, are the police coming? Are the police coming?" He was absolutely gone, and I'm wondering if it's the same one. That scene just stuck in my head.
Well, you know something? I saw it advertised in the movie theater. I don't know whether it's something that's been brought back. We've been seeing a lot of reissue, so to speak, in the theater. And it's not a reissue. I guess it's yeah, I don't know what they call it, but they're bringing back classic stuff. It's Fandom and Turner Classic Movies. A
Mm.
bunch of companies are bringing these things back for us to see. I don't know whether it's retro, but regardless, it sounds amazing. Tom Jr. Jackson, guys, check out his review on his channel. Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington says he's been watching Evan Peters in Dahmer. And we were talking about this last night. Evan Peters does seem to gravitate towards the horror genre. He's done a ton of American Horror Story shows. Evan Peters is the man. He is certainly amazing. And they do capture one scene that, or at least talk about one of the events where someone managed to break free from their bindings in his apartment or house, and the police returned him back to Dahmer. Oh, this
Yes.
is where you belong. Okay, here you go. Certainly, one of the most shocking and horrific um, things to occur, as far as I'm concerned, and certainly very interesting to see how Peters might revisit it. He certainly looks like Dahmer. Um,
Mm,
Joker Voice says, "I learned that Aegon II is played by David Tennant's son."
mm.
Ah,
Nice little factoid. Thank you, Joker Voice.
certainly. Um,
Yeah, I think we got a load of chats to catch up on here before we get on to Andor. Should we go through?
Yes, certainly. I'm not going to be able to go through every single comment, but what I am going to say is, let's see. Here, Norwegian Controlling says, "I think a medieval time show like The Lord of the Rings should have to pull you in immediately, or people just drift out." Yeah, this is exactly what you're saying, Norwegian Controlling and Russ, and a lot of people agreed. They just weren't able to hook people at all because, like I said, they just don't have any imagination. I'm sorry, guys. That is how I see it. They were so unimaginative that they couldn't even make up a decent story. Um,
Yeah, you can't have characters that have no flaws at all. You just can't because people just don't care. What is the point of everybody else in that show apart from Galadriel at the beginning? It's just, and you compare that to how well House of the Dragon just pulls you in. They pull you in with Damon, don't they? Because he's so fucking awesome at everything. Like in that scene when that bloke, like the bloke, the knight, knows that he's murdered the wife, and the older man was, looked at the girl as his own daughter or what have you, and then he just says, "Well, oh yes, no, I just realised I've just taken over your safe holding, haven't I? I'll see you there." After the guy's like gobbed off at him, and he's horrid. I love him. He's great. But yeah, I think you have to compare them. They're similar. They're the same genre. Um, R.R. Martin was certainly inspired by Tolkien, as much as he's admitted himself. But he said he wants to be the anti-Tolkien, where things aren't black and white and all the rest of it, and that's totally fine. They were always going to get compared, and as I think it was who said was a Joker Voice, I think said it was a first round knockout. It really was. They're worlds apart.
Well, R.R. Martin is a big old bear. I mean, he just is really such a joy to listen to as he talks about his IP. And seeing him on the panels, I just have to say, I really think he's an amazing person. Mario Lopez says, "I'm glad that the Rings of the Power is bad. At least I can see it like it was a parody to Lord of the Rings." So I did want to mention this. This is very interesting, Mario.
Mhm.
Someone's going to take this show and edit it so that it is a comedy to Lord of the Rings. I mean, we have the Oral Knots, which is the parody of a lot of Star Wars shows.
Mhm.
I could see this would have been interesting if they had just done a comedy version of Lord of the Rings. And we've seen French and Saunders kind of did this with original Lord of the Rings, kind of
Mm.
making fun of Galadriel. And then she's like, "I am the queen of the North and the South and the foreign winds and the blowing sky." And just like go on and on and on. But they did it to perfection. She looked exactly like Galadriel when she did that skit.
Mm.
And it was funny because it was hilarious, just having a laugh at the level of intensity and the amount of titles that were included. But it's things like that. This would have been interesting for it to be kind of comedic. I think that would have been a very different spin on Lord of the Rings.
Mm. Yeah, it would be. It's. I think I said last week. I just can't accept it as Lord of the Rings, and I've said a million times. If only they just done a generic fantasy, their own big budget, huge scope of fantasy. I think people would have accepted it far more. Uh, all the controversy beforehand, but ultimately, if even if this wasn't with the Lord of the Rings tag on it, and it was its own thing, people would still not like it because it's just not good, and that's the,
Yes.
the end of it.
Agreed. And Joker Voice, what you're talking about right here is exactly what we are all here to do. We know we're not going to enjoy all the same things equally. Gosh, I don't know anybody on earth who enjoys everything I do. So, and there isn't anyone on earth who does. So, I think it's just we're celebrating our individual preferences. We're here to find out what we enjoy and what we don't enjoy. And we're relishing in all of it because that's the spice of life, guys. I like to hear when you guys like stuff, when you perhaps don't prefer stuff. It's still very interesting to hear. So we support that, and you guys really do make doing this show so much fun and enjoyable. Thank you for sharing all this stuff. Now I can't say this enough. Dino Dinosaur, hello to you and welcome to the show. If I haven't already said that, I can't say this enough, Russ. Dino Dinosaur says that your Gladiatrix book series would be prime right now for an adaptation to a TV series. Absolutely, Russ. Certainly,
Well, thank you.
something that so many of us want to see adapted to a show. I think it would be great, especially on HBO. I think I don't know what you envision for your IP, but I'm saying that I envision for your IP, which I have no right to do, but I could see it on HBO because they do adaptations right. We can see nudity, we can see sex, and we can see, bloodletting. I think it could be interesting. What do you think, Russ?
Oh, I've got a story about that actually. Many years ago, because when the first Spartacus show came out, it came out just after, 2 years after I think I'd written my first book. Of course, the star of that show's name was Andy Whitfield. So I picked up a lot of traction around that time on Twitter and things like that when I used to have Twitter because of just it was a show about gladiators and we both had the same surname and I'd written a book about lady gladiators. And Stars announced that in season 2 or whatever, season 2, they were going to have a female gladiator. She was going to be a Spartan, and her name was Lysandra. That was Stephen Knight or Stephen A. Knight, the guy that wrote the show. And I tweeted, I saw it on Twitter, and I tweeted him back and said, "Dude, look, if you're going to do this, at least pay me." You know. And then they came out. Then they released a press release saying that it was a mistake, and she wasn't a Spartan, and it was nothing to do with me or anything like that. But it was quite my 15 minutes of fame. But thank you. Yeah, no, I'd love to see it get made into a TV show. Actually, I had a producer spoke to me recently about writing an adult animation for them. And the Gladiatrix and the three Gladiatrix were one of the ideas that I pitched them. But the one that they wanted to go for actually was something to do with Vampire the Masquerade. So they're now going out to see if it's worth trying to get the rights for that. Is it going to be too expensive? But if they do, then I think I'll get a higher job out of it, and hopefully I'll do a good job, and then it'll languish in development hell for years and never get made, just like everything else. But hey, those are the breaks.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that it does get made. I want to stay positive here, guys. Certainly, let's keep our fingers crossed and support the creators here, including Russ, with their fantastic work. So there is
You're very
that.
kind.
Joker Boy says comparisons are going to be made because the fact that 2 fantasy shows are running at the same time. I know, but I just feel that there are different. Well, for me, they feel different. I feel like House of the Dragon is like my guilty pleasure fantasy series, and that Lord of the Rings might be a more spiritual series. So
A bit like a penance, isn't it? If it's spiritual, you got to watch it every week. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Andrew 46 and 2 says Tolkien was a genius. Yes, he was a genius. There's no doubt about it. G.R. Martin was just a decent author. Yeah, but he's so sweet. I just love that man. Yes, and it is true. And I think that you're probably 100% right on that. Joker Boy says that they would have had a slam dunk with Rings of Power. Yes.
Well, yeah, I think it was just the arrogance of it. if you like. It was just the arrogance of the people that were doing this, that they were going to change the law, they were going to write the book that Tolkien never wrote. I mean, this is hubris, right? This is complete. Seems we're going with the ancient the ancient thing today. This is absolute hubris. It could not have gone more catastrophically wrong for them. I just can you imagine like the meetings that they're having about this? Whereas across the road at Warner Brothers, they're laughing their asses off because, like, I think each episode of someone said last week, wasn't it? Um, it's $50 million an episode cheaper or something like that to make House of the Dragon, and yet everybody loves it.
Well, one could argue that it is absolutely audacious what they have proposed and put forward for such an epic magnum opus of work that Tolkien has created. But then there are those of us here in the chat who say, here it's decent for what it is. Nathan says the dialogue of Rings of Power doesn't feel like Tolkien or Jackson, so perhaps it's a new creation. Tom Jr. Jackson says he's enjoying Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. And we're happy that you are.
That's that's great. I think we said on one of the shows when I was really ranting about it, what kind of helps is if you just sort of pretend that it isn't Lord of the Rings. A lot of people are sort of taken to doing that. Saying, do you know what? It's quite fun and blah blah. It's okay, but even it's sort of damning with praise. I haven't really heard anybody raving about it that saying it's the best show ever. But if you're enjoying it, that's all that counts, man.
Absolutely. Tom Jr. Jackson is saying, I believe he's referring to the David Bowie,
David Bowie thing, yeah.
that it's new. And Kenneth Crayley Jr. says, do you collect any figures, statues, hot toys, figures, comics, or novels? And the answer is yes, 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 and yes. So Kenneth, please do check out my channel, which is Positive Fandom here, and you will see some of the figures that I've collected, statues, the hot toys, figures, my comics. I didn't really talk about novels very much, although I have reviewed some novels and haven't put those videos up yet. But yes, I do. And Kenneth, you can also catch me on Midnight's Edge or on the PGS or on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, where I discuss all these things if you like to see that as well. So yes, to answer your question, do check out this channel and watch some of the reviews I have for figures, for statues. Some of them are hot toys, some of them are not. The first comic I ever bought was V in 1980. After seeing the show, I remember going into a store and they had the comic rack, and there was a comic book for V, which I immediately bought and bought pretty much the entire series of that run. So, and I still have them. So there's that. Joker Voice talks about watching Rome. Yes, I love. Is it Polly Walker?
Yes, Polly Walker. Yeah.
She's wonderful in that. I love that character because she's like, what is Rome coming to if you've got things falling from the sea? Like she's fantastic, absolutely wonderful in that. She's great, guys.
It's such a shame about the second season of Rome. It wasn't as good as the first because they lost their budget and everything like that. But yeah, universally, everyone is on the chat here is saying it. Yeah, it was the first one of these kind of things. It was at least the first one we had in England that that came across, and it was at the time when the shackles came off. Because you're talking about Polly Walker, the first shot we see of Polly Walker is like a full frontal nudity of her stepping out of the bath, and it was quite shocking, all the swearing and sex and all that kind of stuff at the time. I'd certainly hadn't seen that in a TV show before, and of course it being Rome, which I'm used to be a bit of a student of. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is a time period where you would go to a brothel and you would pick what you wanted from a picture on the wall, right? Right, Russ?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's funny when you go into a Roman brothel. I've been to the one in Pompeii, and the one thing you do notice is the sizes of the beds are much smaller than what you'd think, because people were much smaller in those days because of their diets. So the beds are quite tiny. But yeah, there's all like graffiti carved into the walls of cocks and tits and all that sort of
I'll
stuff. So
take that.
yeah, all day,
Right there.
right there.
Much.
Yeah. Uh,
Yes. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is important to note. And Joker Voice talks about India not supporting RRR for Best Picture nomination. I'm sure it's political. Joker Voice, RRR certainly is a great movie, and not just because they have my name in it, guys. Certainly check out some of these Indian films. I've reviewed a few on my channel, along with Lorraine, your Creole. We've been reviewing a ton of Indian cinema. Kenneth asks about Casablanca, and he says it's coming out on 4K. It certainly is a wonderful film. My mother watches Turner Classics 24/7, as you guys know, and they have a hot toy of Ingrid Bergman, who is one of the main stars in Casablanca. But they made the hot toy in black and white, like the sepia tone,
oh,
I guess.
that's so cool.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realize that it's Ingrid Bergman. I believe it's a hot toy. If it's not a hot toy, it might be Sideshow, but certainly it's a character that is, just timeless. Everybody's trying to capture the magic of Casablanca.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an all-time classic. Not as good as its superior remake, Barbed Wire, starring Pamela Anderson, obviously, but still a great film.
I think it would have been very interesting to see her in something like that. I think,
Well, Barbed Wire was kind of like a take on Casablanca, but just not a very good one. No, I can't say that. I love Pamela. She's my favorite. Still number one as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think she could still produce a lot of work as far as I'm concerned. I think she still looks great. I think that she has the ability to do it, and that they should have been monopolized on that. Definitely, pumped out a bunch of films for her. And I think it would have been very interesting for her to have that in her repertoire. But, it is what it is. Latoya T is here, everybody.
Hello.
Latoya T. Such a pleasure to see you here, Latoya T. She says, good morning, brunch as well. Good morning to you, Latoya T. Guys, check out Coco Tulip. Latoya T is a designer, everybody. If you want to see the latest fashions, some incredible things to pick up. The holidays are coming. Certainly do check out Coco Tulip, which is Latoya T's fashion line. I promise you guys, you won't be disappointed. And we do have the website here, there. So do check it out. It's in the chat, everybody. Kenneth talks about how Rings of Power is not as great as the Lord of Rings trilogy. Let's be clear of that. The trilogy is the GOAT and one of the best film series in the fantasy of all time. And I personally, and I know it's not as good, but I personally would add The Hobbit, especially because of Martin Freeman, who brings that character to life for me.
Yeah, I watched The Hobbit recently, actually, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's good. I'd go so far to say it's one of the not just fantasy, one of the greatest film trilogies of all time, if not the greatest films of all time. There's been nothing like it before and nothing like it afterwards, with the exception of maybe Star Wars. But it hasn't been topped as far as I'm concerned. And there's Luminara.
Yes, Luminara 843 is here with us, guys. Check out Luminara. She is also a collector. She also does poses with the figures. Luminara is such a fantastic lady. I am so glad you are here this morning, Luminara, and I hope you are doing well. So good to see you, as always. And Tom Jr. Jackson is kind enough to put up that if you would like to support Sunday Brunch and Positive Fandom and me, certainly do consider supporting the channel for more great content at my Stream Elements account. I'm not monetized yet, but you can leave a tip there and a comment there. And now that I found the tips and comments, I can say them on the air because I'm not, wondering where they are anymore because I have access. I feel really silly for all this time not being able to read them. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't thinking about all of you. So grateful for all the generosity from so many of you, like Jin Korea, who has tipped a generous amount, Basco. Also Mirror Universe, who is Martino Solmoni, Stubble McShave, as well as BK Panther, incredibly generous tips. Adam Luchik's Bear Down Ada, and a few more very generous people. Thank you so much for your generosity to Positive Fandom. I certainly do appreciate your support. So yes, continuing on, let me see if I can just pull up the, yes, okay, here we are. Certainly do consider doing that. Let's see. Now, Russ, we are approaching the 1 hour mark, and it is at this time that I normally would show my promo, which was made by CJ. CJ made me this incredible intro and outro. I play it in the middle of the show. I guess just because I don't know why. I played in the middle of the show, so I'm going to play it now. Certainly, I think that it's a nice break in between this and talking about maybe our next show.
I
And
can't wait.
yes, Latoya T says she's enjoying Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
I do think the plot comes on a bit convoluted at times. We are glad you were enjoying it. As I said, we definitely welcome different points of view, and certainly there are going to be people who will enjoy it, and we are happy for you. This is very funny. Nathan Trujillo says, I'm always amazed how you stay up late for midnight musings and get in on time to moderate Positive Fandom. Much respect. At Tom B. Jackson. Well, thank you for saying that, Nathan. It's not easy doing this. It's not easy staying up till I don't know what time. Tom stays up even later. I don't even know how he's doing that. God bless you, Tom, for doing it. Thank you, Tom, who's always been here. Oh, Lorena Creole is here with us this morning.
Beautiful Lorena. Hello.
Good morning, Lorena Creole. She says, please smash that like button and share this stream. Absolutely. Lorena Creole and I will be hosting Ladies of the PGS on Monday at 6 p.m. on the Post Geek Singularity. So that is going to be a fun time, guys. Please do check it out on Monday. And also check out the streams I have with Lorena at 1 p.m. on her channel. Will be the rebroadcast of Toxic Male Appreciation. We also have our show streaming live on Twitch on Thursdays at 5 p.m. On Fridays, we do an anime review at 7 p.m. So please do check out the streams we have there, everybody. Lorena Creole is such a fantastic YouTuber. She has such a great show. Subscribe to Lorena Creole's channel. She's been so supportive. Please do check her out. And thank you so much, Lorena. I hope you're doing well this morning. Thank you for stopping by. Retro Nerd Girl says, V is one of my favorite series. The original, The Memories. Yes, Retro Nerd Girl. V is very, very close to my heart. I always wanted to be Diana in V. I think that she was such a great villainess, or whatever you want to call her. I think that she had this sexy outfit, and she was just gonna, shake things up on Earth. One of my favorite things is that the alien ship is sucking the Earth dry of all our natural, natural things here, whatever, our natural resources. I just thought that this was great. I mean, how intimidating was it to see that long tube coming down? It was like a fly sucking out all the resources here. It couldn't be any more intimidating and insulting than that. So
I've got the theme tune in my head now.
Yes.
I've just got it going round and round in my head. It was brilliant. Ham Tyler, played by the awesome Michael Ironside. Diana was, I forget the name of the actress now, but she was she was inhumanly beautiful. Like how they found this particular person to play, the lead alien. She was, a bit like Amelia Clark. It hurts your eyes when you're looking at her. She's like, what, stunning.
Absolutely. I think it was, is it Jane Balder? Jane Balder?
Yes. Well done.
And she really was amazing. She still kind of does. She did a few science fiction appearances later on in a few sort of B science fiction films too. She still looks amazing too. Lorena Creole says she's laughing at Positive Fandom's answers to Quiplash last night. And Lorena was playing Quiplash, which is a game on Jackbox TV. I think it's either Jackpot TV or Jackbox TV. And we had a great time, and you have to kind of create answers. And I try to make everybody laugh with my answers. But it is a lot of fun to do those things. And guys, check out Lorena Creole's channel here. We posted it in the chat. So everybody, I sure hope you do get to see Lorraine's channel. If you are fond of the Disney parks or Universal parks or any kind of parks, Lorraine is the person you definitely want to check out. And Lorraine, thank you, Lorraine, says, please do tip Positive Fandom as she brings you guys such amazing entertainment. Thank you. Lorraine also is a fan of the V series. Gosh, I love V so much. So Tom Jr. Jackson is pointing out to please join me at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Post Geek Singularity. That is Robert Meyer Burnett's network for Ladies of the PGS discussions on science fiction, fantasy, horror, sex, and so much more. We embrace masculinity, guys. Lorraine is going to be on the show on Monday, so please do check it out. And it's at this point, Russ. And Lorraine is saying she can't wait to be on the show. I can't wait to have you on there. It's at this point that I'm going to play the promo or the intro that the wonderful CJ has made for me. Thank you so much, CJ. You sure have made streaming, having this promo something that makes the show certainly feel more professional. So here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. I was still dancing from the from the promo there. You know, I got to get my groove on there with that. So thanks for thanks guys for certainly sticking around to see me. And yes, Darth Plato, thank you for that. I just love that. Oh, Kenneth wants to know if I have any social media. I don't have any. You can always reach me here on Positive Fandom. You can always reach me on the Post Geek Singularity, but I don't currently have any social media. Sorry, Kenneth. Maybe I'll get around to be able to do it. Jacob Ironside has joined us. I wasn't sure if we said hello to Jacob Ironside.
No, I didn't. I think he only just popped up. Hey, Jacob, how's it doing? I love the icon, by the way. That's really cool.
It is, Jacob. Certainly wonderful to see you here. Lorraine does also mention, and I think Tom Jr. Jackson made it as well, Alien Nation. I thought that was a great TV show and TV series as well. We had such great TV series at that time. I miss it. I really miss it, guys. And so Tom Jr. Jackson is saying, hey, please go ahead and subscribe to the Post Geek Singularity. So, Russ, I want to ask you about Andor. A lot of people have been talking about Andor, and I wanted to get your opinion. We got 3 episodes, Russ. Tell me what you think about those first 3 episodes of Andor.
God, I'm not going to lie. It's Star Wars. It's Disney Star Wars. And I was not enthusiastic about this show beforehand. I just thought I've been kicked in the balls too many times by Disney at this point to trust anything that they produce to do with that IP, especially that IP. Imagine my surprise when the show turned out to be the most awesome Disney Star Wars since Rogue One. It was absolutely fantastic. I cannot praise this show highly enough. I think, yeah, all right, in the 3rd episode, they were a bit on the nose with their political messaging about the corrupt and evil empire and blah, 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 blah. We knew this was coming. However, it was in keeping with I thought that bit of dialogue was a bit clunky. Take that bit away. That's one bit of dialogue in one scene. The rest of it, absolutely fantastic. And what I like about this, what I like about it, there's so many things I like about this show. They treat the audience with a modicum of respect. They don't spell everything out for you, and they're letting this show breathe. The characters are great. Andor is horrid. He's he is a piece of shit. He's less than an anti-hero. I mean, he's just a reprehensible character, and that's fucking brilliant. That's like, okay, I don't feel sorry for this guy. Like, I'm kind of rooting for the Imperials, and the young man that's in charge of the security force. Like, he can't believe that his boss just wants to brush it all under the carpet so his PowerPoint presentation looks good, and he's all gung ho. He's like you said the other day, he's like Gorman out of Aliens. What I did like about uh, when I was saying they don't spell everything out for you. So obviously Gabriel Luna is Hispanic, and he has a very, very strong accent. And why is that when everyone else is clearly from Yorkshire and Birmingham and Scotland in this show for whatever reason? Um, they just show you his home planet, where they were speaking a completely different language. So when he speaks in, I don't know, what is it, common tongue or whatever it is. I don't know what they call it in Star Wars. Um, but he has an accent because that's the planet he came from, and I get it. And they don't say anything about it, but they expect you to know that's why. And it's little things like that. I really liked that it looked horrible, and beautiful, but it was so well shot. But where they live is such a shithole. I mean, it's horrible. It's kind of like it's like a north of England industrial mining town that's but down on its luck in the future. It looks exactly like that. It is grim. It's horrible. It's always raining. There's puddles. Um, yeah, man, I was so impressed with it, especially dreading it uh, going in, and I like the fact that the Imperial guy, or the security guy, with his soldiers and all the rest of it, when they go to attack that building that Andor and Skarsgård are hiding out in, the plan is well thought out. They actually have a plan that doesn't sort of rely on them being absolutely stupid and sort of falling for Andor's traps and everything. They're like, no, they had a really good plan. The guy says, "Should we go in?" No, wait for us to come in and back you up. And the whole thing, the way that it unraveled was feasible. It was believable, and that's on the macro level. On the micro level, the small things like the blaster bolts, like, they really did sound like they were going to do some damage when they hit you. Like they were hitting the steel in the factory, and it just, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really, 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 really enjoyed it.
Well, I think we have some interesting comments in the chat, and I did just want to mention um, Darth Plato says, "I like Andor for the most. It does have have legit complaints, though." Joker Voice says, "Andor was boring, but if you always wanted brothels, implied sex scenes, profanity, and present day politics, this is the show for you." We also saw that Lorena Creel also says, "Andor bored me. I'm hoping for those of you who like the show that it gets better for you." And also, Cameron Montijo, hello, Cameron. It's so nice to see you here. Mentioned something about the budget. Where was this budget and attention to detail in Kenobi? And then I would also go far as to say, yeah, in the Book of Boba Fett as well. Does Disney not care about George's characters? And Lorena makes a good point that it's interesting yet again how Disney treats their original characters better than the Lucas characters.
I'd never thought of that, and both you guys are completely spot on. When you say about where was this attention to detail in Kenobi was just so badly done. That's what I was thinking of when you compare the attack that the security guards did on Andor and the Imperials did on that sort of volcano thing in Kenobi. It's got a hole in the roof, guys. You've got an airplane. Just drop people in, paratroopers, or shoot them, or anything. Don't close the lid. But anyway, yeah, Kenobi was ridiculous. It was just, oh, thank you, Lorena. It was so poorly thought out, so badly done, and yet, yeah, you're quite right. Maybe they're trying to erase these characters and go their own way. I said on here once before, and I really wish that they will do this now. I hope they remake the original trilogy, and I hope that they make their original trilogy their way, and at that point, Star Wars fans can look look at this as two separate universes that sort of diverge. So one, you've got the sequels and where they end up, and all that stuff going on over there. But in the one that I would prefer is Star Wars happened, the original, the prequel trilogy happened, Star Wars happened, and then the expanded universe happens. And you've got all those books and comics that you could like. I think it's called Star Wars Legends. And then if they remake the original trilogy, then Disney Star Wars can carry on down its own way. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it.
Well, that's very interesting. Joker Voice says that he feels that city looked more like Tijuana, Mexico. I was going to say Juarez, which is also in Mexico, but more towards the Texas border. And I agree with you, Joker Voice. It did look like that city. Now, Darth Plato says, I think it would have been better if Andor starts as a rebel spy rather than showing a literal origin story. That's interesting.
I don't know, Darth Plato. I like the idea. Technically, it's not. It's one of these things where the writing is so good, but it's not great writing because Andor, things are happening to Andor. Like the story is happening to him. He is not driving this story. And if you read books on it, they'll say that's not the way to go. But this is done so well, you don't particularly mind, or I don't particularly mind anyway. He is entirely selfish. He is not joining the rebellion. The rebellion wanted to recruit him, and I think had he not been cornered and in fear of his life and had to rely on Skarsgård to get him out, he would have told him no. He doesn't want to go and be a hero. He just wants to leave the place. He's on the run. His first act is to shoot somebody in the face in cold blood, and this guy is a horrible man. He is a horrible, horrible character, and I like that. And his reasons for running away with Skarsgård are entirely selfish. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he will come to care about the rebellion, but at the moment, I don't suppose he gives a crap.
Well, I agree with you, Russ. We all know that as soon as Andor gets on that plane, the first thing he's thinking is how he's going to knock Skarsgård over the head and steal that ship from him. He has no intentions of really joining the rebellion right now. He's had to go with Skarsgård because he had no choice. And my biggest concern was, how were they going to show that they were able to sway Andor onto their side? Because I don't see him fighting for the rebellion so easily. I think that something major would have to happen. We know he's looking for his sister. Maybe they'll say, we'll help you find your sister, or at least find out what may or may not have happened to her. But it has to be something that is clever. I didn't want it to be a cliche moment, where he sees people doing something and that convinces him he has to, like in his heart, he has to fight for the rebels. I didn't want to see something like that at all. I wanted it to be something maybe very different in the way he comes around to doing this. And, he even has a gun to Stellan Skarsgård's head. Which I think is very interesting. That episode 3, certainly many of you are talking about episode 3, Retro Nerd Girl and Joker Voice, about how impactful it was. And Lorraine makes a point that Stellan Skarsgård probably saved that episode.
Well, he's just Stellan Skarsgård, isn't he? Has he been in anything? Even if he's in something that's shit, he elevates it. Yeah, I've seen a few comments here about it being really slow and stuff like that. You see, I was invested in it. The one part I wasn't invested in was the save the cat bit. That he's on a quest to find his sister. I almost like it's almost to sort of make him, at least he has one noble thing about him, that he's trying to find his sister. And I could have done without that. Actually, I could have done without that.
Thing that I'm talking about. I didn't want to see a cliche situation like I've got to find my sister, which might be considered very cliche. I mean, we've seen that a million times. Tom Jr. Jackson says to please check out Mikey Lito's channel, Mikey Lito Live, and also check out Retro Nerd Girl's channel, everybody, which we have posted here in the chat. So please do check those out. Also, the other thing that I was going to say is, and I know Joker Voice and a lot of people do share this opinion. It's deliberate That woman who works for Lucasfilm is set on destroying George's creation and reimagining it in her own image. Now, I um, I I don't necessarily share this opinion, but I think it's important because a lot of people do have this opinion about Lucasfilm and the effect that corporate is having over the creation process and pretty much making the series, in some cases, unbearable to watch. One thing I was going to say, Russ, is that we didn't see these unforced errors that we saw in Kenobi, the trench coat moment, or, the barrier that you can walk around, this is
Yeah.
a checkpoint, but you can easily walk around the sides. We didn't see anything like that in there. We also didn't see the de-aging mistakes. So I hope that they keep that level of attention to detail up. They even went so far, Russ, when Skarsgård was going to I don't remember the planet they're on, but when he was going to that planet, and he's on the transport, they have this actor who's a famous actor, by the way, start to chat Skarsgård up and say, "Yeah, well, I'm into boosters and propulsion. What are you doing here? If you can't find it here, then it's not worth finding." Even a character like that, who's got a little bit part in the story, is important, Russ.
Hmm.
And they didn't have to do that. He could have just been sitting there and looking at a piece of paper or some kind of boring stuff. We see a lot of the sitting there in the Mandalorian where he's kind of contemplative and quiet, and a lot of times it's not because that's the best thing that you could have ever put in a series. It's because they didn't know what to put there. They didn't want to write anything that sounds ridiculous, so they say, okay, let's just make him more quiet. He doesn't talk. We'll just have symbols or pictures, or he'll open up something that's shaped like Grogu's head. These symbolisms, it's much easier for them to do that versus putting in actual dialogue, isn't it, sometimes?
Mm.
But I think that they pay that attention to detail. Russ, you talked about even the sound being right when
Mm.
blasters go off, when people are walking around, when you see ships flying in. Even the junkyard had some verisimilitude, if you will, which I thought was interesting. And we even did see one of the ladies in the story talk about essentially hooking up for sex. The guy's not a stranger. She knows this man, but one of my favorite lines is like, "You're free tomorrow, right?" And of course, whatever he had planned, he was going to cancel that shit because you knew he had to be there tomorrow so he could hook up with this woman. But I've heard people say that even in the strip scene, you didn't even see anything in the strip club, and how is that? For me, the issue really there is it's supposed to be dark and edgy and gritty, and it didn't feel like that to me, Russ. I mean, what did you think?
Um, I'm going to disagree. I think, like Rogue One in its own way, and especially this show, excuse me, it's something that people have been crying out for years, and that is Star Wars for adults. Like, there has been this policy of, like, it's for kids, it's for kids, it's for kids, but kids have moved on. They're not, yeah, you've got some rabid Star Wars fans out there, I'm sure, but like when we were young, it was the only thing we had, and I've said this before. But now there's a plethora of stuff for people to be into, and all the Star Wars fans have all, they're, even the prequel fans now. Everyone's grown up. And I like the idea that this show was written by adults for adults. I don't necessarily think we need to see sex in Star Wars, but the fact that it's implied and it goes on, I really quite like that. And I like the fact that the guy was jealous, and I don't know if he did go tattletale to the Imperials, because also the prostitute, the madam, she also went to the Imperials as well. So it's kind of, for me, it was a little bit ambiguous as to who'd actually uh, grassed him up until the point where she says, "How could you?" But his motivations for trying to get rid of Andor were entirely correct. Like, yeah, the guy shot a policeman in the face. Now, it doesn't matter. If this was real, if this was me and I'm walking down the road and the police say stop, and I get into a fight with the police and I get the policeman's gun off him and shoot him in the face, the police are going to hunt you down, even if those cops were bent and even if those cops were out of order. And I don't like the idea that the guy's like, well, look, he suspects that Andorra and Bix have got something going on, because there's that bit in the bar and he touches her on the hand, and the Scottish guy's there watching it. Tim is watching it, and he leaves before Bix pushes Andor's hand away, so he's jealous, and it's kind of like, yeah, well, you've killed someone and you're pulling into my chick. F you, buddy. I'm gonna tell the police on you, which is what he did.
Yeah, and that part does make sense that, he kind of is fighting for this woman. He doesn't want Andor to come in there. They clearly are tight, right? Andor and this woman are tight. He doesn't like that. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want anybody encroaching on something that was important to me. Single songwriters here. Hello, single songwriter. It's so good to see you today. Single songwriter says Disney Empire in Andor seems to be leaning towards America is the empire. White skin bad. But I mental block tier message and enjoy it as a sci-fi, but I digress.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think I'd go to support that single songwriter. We knew before this show started, because they all started going on about how it was a comment on Trump's America, and how terrible everything is about Donald Trump and so on and so on. So we knew this was coming, and that's why I was really trepidatious about watching it. I just thought, oh god, this is going to be dreadful. And that messaging is there, and it comes out of the mouth of Skarsgård, actually, in that scene, which was the most blatant part of it. But the rest of it was so good. I mean, Tony Gilroy is really good, and I can see it, and like single songwriter, um, I'm willing to overlook it in the same way as I'm willing to overlook the smash the patriarchy messages in House of the Dragon, right? Because it's a great show, and I think we've said on here before, Hollywood's always been that way. The original Star Wars was that way. It's become so overt these days with such terrible writing. But this isn't. I like it, and I can see the chat scrolling up there that I'm in a minority on this, but guys, I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to have seen it, and I can't wait to see the next one.
Well, single songwriter says, will we learn how he becomes an expert pilot maybe next week? And I'm guessing it's because he's gone on different trips with Marva as they are looking for scraps, and that's how perhaps he has become an expert pilot. Single songwriter Mike Alito says, I feel that Cassian is in a situation that he's not quite sure how to deal with. He's completely out for himself. Definitely.
Do you know, Mikey? That's an interesting. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. It's an interesting point, and you might be right, because before he shoots the cop in the face, there's a moment where he hesitates, and then he does it. Now we know from Rogue One that he is completely ruthless, because he kills his mate, doesn't he, rather than have him captured. So he actually murders him. So we know that he's got that streak in him, and I rather think that scene there where he shoots the policeman is his turn, from where he becomes like con man Lothario, to sort of, he's now taken his first step into a larger world, right? He's now killed someone in cold blood. This is the path he's now set himself on.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. And like you, Russ, I enjoyed the show. I loved it, as a matter of fact. I thought it was a very good show. And it is true that it could have been, I still feel like it could have been grittier for me, but that's okay. Maybe it will, maybe we've just scratched the surface here. Joker Voice says, I finally got my representation as a stutterer in Star Wars, and it's a droid, a box on wheels that gets peed on. Thanks, jerks. Honestly, that droid was amazing. He was so adorable. Everybody seems to like this droid. Darth Plato's saying it's similar to B.O.B. from the Black Hole, guys, if you remember that particular.
Yeah, old Bob. Yeah, yeah. I think Mr. H said this. This is not directly from me, and I watched his review of it because he quite liked it as well. But he said this is the one item in the show, of all of these Star Wars shows, that it doesn't. The droid feels like it's there. It's there for a reason, right? It's not just a toy that they want to sell. It seems to have some purpose. It can't. It has to power up to the lie and all this kind of stuff. It's yeah. I think he's a great little character. I think they're all great characters. There's so many people from English, English television on there. It's really quite funny, sort of seeing them in these Star Wars roles. And The performances in that show were all really, really, really strong. Apart from Gabriel Luna, I don't know if he's overdoing it a little bit or if I'm just not warming to him as an actor. Certainly, the character is horrid, and I love that I don't like this guy. I do not like him, and I think they've done a brilliant job of making the hero the anti-hero. I'm a little bit on the fence with his performance in particular, but he's surrounded. Everyone around him is so strong. It again, it doesn't matter.
Well, Dr. Sleep, hello, Dr. Sleep, says, I don't see modern politics in Andor as yet, unlike other productions. And Joker Voice says, Andor is set at the same time as Star Wars Rebels, which is an animated series, which I've also watched and enjoyed. It's an animated show better than this garbage. Well, you know something, Joker Voice, we haven't seen the whole show yet. So I'm going to wait before I cast full judgment. I'm actually waiting for the last 3 episodes for She-Hulk before I cast full judgment. I don't recommend She-Hulk, but I do recommend Andor. So, there is that, at least for me. And thank you, Joker Voice, for letting us know how you feel about this. You're not the only person who feels this way, for sure. Also, Darth Plato talks about, was Tim jealous? Or was he just suspicious of Andor? Was it both? Maybe?
Both, I think. I think Darth Plato, because the bit that sold me on his jealousy aspect is when he follows her because he doesn't trust her, right? So he's in love with her, but he doesn't trust her. He obviously thinks that she's cheating on him. Then he goes to that pub and he sees that moment where he puts his hand and then he storms off, kind of thing. But then she pulls her hand away and she's like, F off. So I think
you can't touch me like that anymore, Andor.
that's right, exactly, exactly so. And but it's the typical movie sleight of hand, isn't it, where he doesn't see the full interplay, and then he would have known and everything would have been fine. So for me, it's both. He doesn't trust or like Andor in particular, and now he's tracking his girlfriend who hasn't told him the truth, right? So Bix doesn't say, yeah, I'm going to see Cassian, I've got a job. No, she goes, no, I'm just got some errands to do. So she's lying to him. And I think that's why he wants Andor out of the picture.
Yeah, and he clearly has fallen for this woman too. He probably is in love with her. Joker Voice says, Russ, I'm going to completely disagree with you. Star Wars is generational. It gets passed from parents to children. This show is a dirty secret you keep to yourself. I want all those dirty secrets, Joker Voice. What do you think, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I certainly showed my daughter, I'm a big Star Wars fan as much as the next guy, and Sam watched all of those, but she just didn't really gravitate to them. Her mates haven't sort of gravitated to it, and there's some proper nerds, but they're quite into the comic stuff though. So I got Sam into DC when she was really very young, and she loves all of that, superhero stuff. Or maybe, I don't know. It certainly didn't happen for me with Sam and Star Wars. But hey, you know what, man? If you don't like the show, don't watch it. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about we have a choice. And I'm sorry you don't like it because I'm not really seeing the bad. I think that's my point here. I was listening to people what's the guy's name? Disparu. He appears a lot on the Drinkers channel on their live streams, and he eviscerated this show. He hated it. And just sort of said, everything takes so long, and you could have done this in 30 seconds and that in 30 seconds. People are just doing nothing, and it's just their humdrum lives and all that. And I was like, I'm not seeing the same show as you, man. I'm invested in this. And as I said, the bit I could have done without was the bit on the home planet. I get why it was there. I understand it. I think they mined that well a little bit too much. But on the whole, man, it was an 8 out of 10 for me.
Well, I think for me, I agree. I give it a very high score. If not an 8, maybe a 9 out of 10. I still need to see more episodes. Mario Lopez says, one of the reasons why Andor was good was because we could also see the events from the enemy side as people, not as villains. And that character, which you already mentioned, Russ, the one who I'd said was like the man in Alien.
Gorman, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll just call him Gorman from now on.
who clearly, when they ask Gorman, how many, or Vasquez says, hey, how many jumps have you been on? and he goes
38
23.
simulated.
And yeah, like 22 simulated, and then one including this one or whatever, and they're like, oh man, so you knew, you could see that this guy, this young guy wants to, as you said, Russ, he wants to move up in the ranks, and his boss might be retiring, so maybe he will move up in the ranks, who knows, but he wants to make his name known, and I can guarantee you they are gonna know his name after this
Mm.
debacle.
I just wanted to
But
pick up on something about that as well. What to reiterate or to support what Mario is saying here. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely one of the key things. That these people aren't going out to be directly evil. What has happened here? A policeman has been murdered. All right, the boss doesn't care. They were on duty. They were drinking. They were at a strip club, come brothel. That fuck them. They didn't get murdered. They got into a fight. They picked on the wrong guy and they got themselves killed. I don't care. But he's like, no, this is wrong, and you get to see so many little things about his character. He wants to be the hero, right? And he's a very strict disciplinarian, and how lax the Empire are. And this is another bit of good writing. Like when Andor says, well, why would they notice somebody like me? Because I don't care about the lower classes. All I had to do was put on a uniform, blah, 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 all of that crap speech. But it was the seeds for that were already shown when Gorman goes into the control room and he says, "Right, well, look, you you're going to have to go through all of these logs." And the bloke's like, "Fuck off, that will take all day." And he's like, "Well, yeah, it will, and it's your job, and that's what. And if you don't want to do it, I will find somebody that wants to do the job. Get on with it. Let's go." Yeah, and it's like he's dead keen. He's all gung ho, but he's not a very inspiring character to his men. Like the Scottish guy, sort of told him as it was, like this bloke's armed and dangerous, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And then he tries to do an inspiring speech, the words of which were fine, but the delivery of those words was awkward, clumsy, embarrassing. And you can see them looking at him thinking, this guy is a fool. And then when Andor corners him and puts the gun to his head, he's shitting himself. I love that. I love that about him. That like he reacted as anybody would react that had a blaster put to their head. Don't kill me. I like the plan that they got away with. I thought that was a brilliant plan. I like the fact he's in complete shock. This is his first combat mission. He has disobeyed orders in order to go out because if this mission is successful, he gets to go back and be the hero, which I guess is what he wants, right? And now it's all gone wrong. So not only has he got half of his men killed, not only has his quarry escaped, he's a complete failure. So his ambitions now are going up in smoke, aren't they?
yes, and unfortunately, he has a staff sergeant who's, kind of pushing and egging him on to saying,
Mm,
"Yeah, you're right. We're not heavy-handed enough. We need to, kind of roughhouse these people so we can get the information we need because this isn't right. We shouldn't stand for this." Certainly, the worst person, he's got his boss saying no, and then this guy saying yes, and that kind of, justifies his desire to move forward with the investigation.
mm.
So there is that consideration, but certainly a character that is really interesting. I love that character. I love seeing his face when Andor and Skarsgård are on the speeder and they're flying away and he's just looking at them and it's just like, yeah, he's not, you just kind of like made an enemy forever. Certainly a nice scene there and a nice kind of look at that. Also, Mike Alito says Cassian has the reputation of sleeping around. There was a reference made to that in the dialogue, and to
Yeah,
be
somebody
honest,
says, "What another jealous husband hit you?"
yeah,
So he has got this, or something like that. But basically, he's got an injury, and everyone, there was a reference made to it was somebody's husband that was annoyed with him. So yeah, like I say, he's a Lothario, a con man, a thief, and now a murderer. Um,
he's.
and I
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
He's definitely popular with the ladies because he's hot. This guy who looks really gorgeous. It's just you just fall to pieces when he starts talking. Everything about him is so attractive. So we can't push that away. He's maybe one of really, really hot. Okay, there, I said it. You know, when he comes your way, you're happy. Even the part where they had his friend trying to collect money and that alien was there. The alien, you know, that giant alien who I said kind of reminds me from of the characters, one of the characters from, or the people from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the movie where you have the people who run everything, the bureaucratic group, and they're these really tall aliens.
Mm,
And where one of the guys says, he goes, "Are you in on this?" And he goes, "Oh, he just said I had to stand here," you know. And
yeah,
I just thought, even he's even charming this giant alien, you know, like he can charm everybody because he's charming like crazy.
he
And
is, but he's run out of credits, literally.
yes, he has.
Like like he was doing that job on that ship, and that guy said, "Look, don't come around here anymore. I'm fed up helping you. I'm fed up with your promises. I'm fed up with your lies. Just finish up and don't ever come back." And then with that bit with the alien, the guy's like, "Where's the money you owe me? I'm fed up of your promises and your lies." And there's this theme going through it that he is a con man, a liar, and all that stuff. I will, Lorena. Thank you. Or
Yes.
my heart beats faster. She just called me my dear. A bit of a crush on Lorena. But yes, thank you. I will.
Bondage Brittany, welcome to the show, Bondage Brittany. So glad you were here. Bondage Brittany talks about Tim's death, the unfortunate guy who died for the woman. Well, he died for a principal. He had her, so this was kind of crazy. It's sad that they portrayed him this way. You know, he didn't have to do that. You know, he didn't have to turn Andor in, just to respond to your comment about that. And it is something to think about in regards to how men are portrayed. But then they portrayed Skarsgård as someone who is trying to persuade, let's say, Andor to do what he thinks is right. So he's
Mm.
an older male who's persuading another male to go ahead and, you know, see the light of what's going on, regardless of what side it is. He's like, "Aren't you tired of doing this nonsense and your life not having any meaning?" So there is another male doing that. So it is kind of interesting to look and see what motivates some of these characters. You know, and you know, you talk about going home, getting a weapon, getting help. He probably didn't have anyone to ask for help anymore, Russ,
I,
right?
th- I think there's a couple of things going on there. Yeah, quite possibly a comment on police brutality, but maybe not because it was a black guy that shot him. Now, if they were gonna, Star Wars being what it is, I would expect him to have been a black guy and he gets shot by the white cop, and that didn't happen. I think also what it illustrates was he was genuinely in love with Bix and was, didn't want to see her hurt, but it was a mistake by that policeman. He shot him needlessly, and you could see the actor playing the policeman was clearly told this is getting out of hand. All of that king king king, and the woman says, like, it's when the banging stops, you got to worry, and all that stuff, and all this like implied threat. These are not Imperial stormtroopers. I know the joke about the stormtroopers not being able to hit the size of a barn with a blaster, is now legend. But the stormtroopers themselves are supposed to be quite elite, as far as I know. And I remember in the Han Solo film, you saw the actual Imperial army, and I'm not on the same level. But I guess they're like the Space Marines out of Warhammer, in that they're so much better than the rank and file. But these guys are even a level below the guy in the eye. These are just sort of like corporate security men, and they're in a situation that's gotten out of hand. There's explosions going off, ships are falling out of the sky, cats and dogs living together. It's all gone wrong, and he panics and he shoots the bloke, and he shouldn't have done. And I think that was the thrust of it.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And oh, sorry, and also to get rid of him, because I'm sure we're going to see more of Bix. And now her boyfriend is no longer there. She has no reason to be there. And also that they didn't brutalize her or anything like that. They just handcuffed her and left her there.
Absolutely, and it was a mistake that Andor made. That was clearly a mistake. I think he regretted doing that
Mm.
after it happened. But you know, perhaps it was a decision he felt he had to make. I'm not quite sure. You know how things would have been different if he hadn't done that. Single songwriter says, "I wonder if that droid gets destroyed, and Andor takes the droid brain and puts it inside K2SO later." Wow, I would love that.
Talking of K2SO, maybe, but talking of that, one of the other things that I noticed, there was very few member berries in this show, which Disney Star Wars loves to hit you over the head with. But this one, I'm sure in that junkyard there were parts of X-wings and Millennium Falcons and all that kind of stuff, but none of it was particularly uh, in your face. You know, I'm struggling to think of something that actually, oh yeah, clever. I don't remember that at all. I think Gilroy is trying to differentiate this. He is trying to make it its own thing. Of course, we know where it's going to end up, and that was one of the reasons why I really wasn't excited about this either. You know, it being a prequel, and we know the outcome, but you know, I'm wrong. I was proven wrong. I really loved it.
Yes, and Lorena says, "I don't like Diego Luna's acting. He's boring."
Yeah, Lorena, right? So I don't know. Is it me? Am I just not getting it, or is he just not good? And this is, I think I'll have to grow into this show and see. But like I said, everybody else around him is so good. Even
Yes.
there's the Scottish guy, the sergeant. You know, he's
Oh,
brilliant.
wonderful. And OG fan when Star Wars was just Star Wars. Good morning to you, OG fan when Star Wars was just Star Wars. Thank you for stopping by. For certainly,
Hey,
um, Hassoni Parker. Hello, Hassoni Parker. Hello, love last night's musings with Rockwell and Rob. Love you guys. Well, we love you, Hassoni Parker. And guys, Hassoni Parker does have his own comic book. So please do check out Hassoni Parker's information. Please let us know how that book is going, Hassoni. It's always good to see you. And also, Bondage Brittany says, the droid is 95% certain to be scrapped. Oh, probably when the Empire on Ferrix and the real rebellion happens later in the series and does something heroic to help like K2. Oh, but we love that droid. Bondage Brittany. The droid was maybe one of the best new droids that we've seen
mm,
maybe since Chompers in the animated series and K2SO. So we certainly want him to still be around, guys. Also, OG fan when Star Wars was just Star Wars says, "I'm waiting until the show is done before I binge watch it. That way, if I'm disappointed, it'll only be for one day instead of 12 weeks." And I think, you know what? I think that is very interesting. A lot of people do that. We've seen people in the chat here, Russ, who
mm.
said that they're going to wait to watch the entire series rather than watch it all right now.
Well, that's something that I heard a lot of YouTubers that didn't like it have said. Would you have liked it, to people who do like it? Would you have liked it as much if you only got one episode? The fact that they dropped three really helped. And I noticed as well, Chris Gore, that was his defense of She-Hulk, because we only got to see one episode of it, but like reviewers and professionals got to see four episodes of it, and he warmed to the show a lot more, having seen four on the bounce. I honestly don't know. Yeah, I honestly don't know if I would have liked it less if I'd only seen one episode.
Well, Single Songwriter says, we still haven't seen the scenes where Andor is dressed as an Imperial officer from the trailers yet. And will those security officers later become known as stormtroopers when they rise in the ranks? This is certainly something that I'm anticipating, that this young man will certainly become, since his boss doesn't want to have anything to do with anything, he's out of there. He doesn't want to be at that post anymore. He wants to be where the action is, as my mother would say.
Sure,
Even
but these guys are not Imperials, are they? They're
not
they're
yet.
like they're like a contract. They're like a contractor. They're a corporation, aren't they?
And it
So
really makes sense that there are contractors, right, Russ? Because the empire just started, and they're still working with different factions out there. People who want to make money. It's not empire fully controlled yet, but they want to make money, and they're working with the empire or in connection, but not fully under empire control. What do you
mm,
think?
yeah, I think so. I like the idea that we got to see another side of the Star Wars universe. You know, I mean, I'm sure in the expanded universe stuff, there's stuff about megacores and all that sort of stuff, but this is the first time I can remember anyway seeing it on screen. And yeah, I like that character, the Gorman guy. You know, I just thought, yeah, this guy's a young guy, he's gung ho and entirely unprepared for the reality of combat. And I loved all of that. I just thought it was really well done.
Yes. And Tom Jr. Jackson says, please smash the like button, guys. Let us know that you're enjoying the show here today. We are enjoying having all of you here, especially Slot Car Palace says, I love you guys. Too many spoilers, LOL. I haven't seen this yet. Yes, there are spoilers today. Certainly, thank you for stopping by, Slot Car Palace. Yes,
Yeah,
we have the
thank you.
spoilers.
Sorry for that. We did put it on the bottom. But yeah, no, we have been talking a lot of spoilers, so
And Single Songwriter says the birth of the rebellion timeline before the Death Star is built should be some interesting battle scenes coming up. Yes, we certainly would like to see more interesting battle scenes, guys. Certainly. And Slacker Palace says if you love talk streams about pop culture, then you have to keep on top of it. What they talk about, avoid the streams you like or be spoiled. Yes. So that's why we put that at the bottom, guys. Just to be aware that there are spoilers, as Russ has already said. Retro Nerd Girl says, I like Andor so far because they are showing multiple perspectives and not just one side. As well, there is already a lot of setup and payoff in the story. I'm very pleased with the story so far. I agree with Retro Nerd Girl.
yeah, they act like real people. They act like real people with their, you know, like I said, he's a horrible con man with the petty jealousy did I say petty jealousy? The jealousy of Tim. You know, they're doing things that real people would do. And like you said, when she says to him, you know, so we can have fun tomorrow night, you know, like any guy would just be like, yeah, okay, then well, I'll you know, mentally thinking, well, fuck that, I'm canceling my plans then, you know. I liked it. Excuse me.
Well, I liked it as well. Darth Plato says, I'd like to see the Mon Cals get involved in the rebellion. Getting a race with large warships would be a real coup for the rebels. And Dr. Sleep says something that's really critical. And I think going forward is that we want to see the same production quality in season 2. I want to see the same production quality throughout everything. We've seen the first 3 episodes. I want that production quality to be top notch in what we've been seeing, guys. Certainly, it needs to be top notch because we are certainly tired of seeing sloppy work. That's the only way I could put it out there. Pushing through with sloppy work that there is no excuse for, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if that's anything I can say about Rings of Power, I haven't seen, I don't like the deconstructed look on Rings of Power, but I wouldn't necessarily call it sloppy work. They worked really hard to get that look. A lot of money was spent to get that look. Even though it's not up to my expectations, they did what they needed to do for that specific look. But when you're hiding people under trench coats and you're not spending money de-aging people when you have tons of it, it is kind of sloppy to me. And Gary Bando Sanders Worthington says, out of Another Andor Crusher swoons. Yeah, I think he's hot. So, you know, he's hot. Anyway, the other thing I was going to say is Dr. Sleep says, I would say these episodes of Andor's could have been filmed in the knots, 90s or 80s, and they would have been mostly the same. Yeah, probably. And Tina Guzman is here with us. Hello, Tina.
Hey, Tina.
How are you? I don't know why he wanted it deleted. He didn't say anything wrong, but that's all good. I'm not quite sure what that means.
I don't know. Maybe it was something in the chat that they were talking about.
Yes. Hold down the message and it will let you delete. Oh, okay. Maybe that's something else. But Russ, we've had such an interesting talk about Andor and Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, and hello, Blood Sport One. Hello. Just good to see you. Darth Plato says, the droid says, don't pee on me. Yes, absolutely. And Bondage Brittany says, this is a suspense thriller. Watching it each week lets you enjoy the thrill of the suspense.
Oh, wow. It's divided people, this one, then, hasn't it? It really has. People seem to really like it or really not like it. I suppose that's all to the good. As I say, I am not seeing what its detractors are seeing. I don't even think it's particularly woke, apart from that one bit. And it may well, we're only 3 episodes in. This could go down the pan. But so far, so good. And yes, Mario, she really is hot.
She is smoking hot, guys. I love that they have smoking. She's, they maybe the reason why they didn't want to show too much in the strip joint is because they knew you were going to see her. And it's great. She has a face reveal, which I love that they did that. She has the mask on, she's working, and then she takes off her mask, and it's like, wow, this beautiful woman. Of course, men are dying to be with her. Hell, Tim is fighting for her. He called in the Empire or whoever they are, because he wanted to be with her so bad and have her to himself. So
He's only
that's how
human.
strong the passion Tim felt for this beautiful character. I love stuff like that. So does she feel that way about Andor? She was running through the streets for Andor.
Mm.
She'd probably give him a kidney if he asked for it. So there is
Oh,
that,
good
guys.
girls love bad guys, don't they? So
um, Tom Jr. Jackson says to please join me and my guest Lorena on Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific for a new episode of Ladies of the PGS, where we are going to be covering science fiction, horror, fantasy, sex, and more on the Post Geek Singularity channel. Russ, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up the show?
just to say, Mikey makes a comment that he thinks that the split with Andor is generational. Maybe so. And Darth Plato says lots of people are jaded about current Star Wars. Yeah, man, I totally was. Like I've said a dozen times on this show already, I was not looking forward to this, and I was happy to be proven wrong. Aside from that, no. I just want to say thanks for having me on today, and yeah, I really had fun.
And where can people find you, Russ?
Well, I have a website that's 1,000 years out of date, russellwhitfield.com, and you can always email me at contact@russellwhitfield.com. But more importantly, where can we find you?
Guys, as always, you can find me here on Positive Fandom, my YouTube channel, where I have this live show every Sunday, Sunday brunch show with Russ Whitfield here with me. But you can also find me on another show called Uncivilized Scoundrels and Say What on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, as well as streaming with Lorena Creole on our Toxic Male Appreciation show on Twitch, and the replay usually Sundays at 1 p.m. on her channel. And on Monday night, please do check out my show, Ladies of the PGS. Lorena Creole will be my guest at 6 p.m. Eastern. We cover everything you like to hear about science fiction, fantasy, horror, sex, and more on that show. I just want to thank everybody in the chat who was here for enriching the show so much. We certainly did appreciate you being here and taking the journey with us on sharing and talking about the community, supporting other creators, everybody. Please do subscribe to the creators here. Certainly appreciate everybody for what you are doing, being here with us. And for everybody who's out there, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care,
Thanks so
everybody.
much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm trying to play my promo at the end. Okay.